Let's cut the bullshit. We've got straight up marketing advice. You should use it.
Just drop the job.
Adam and Simon's Bullshit Busters.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Adam and Simon Bullshit Busters. I'm Simon Batchelor.
I am Adam Bastock.
And today we are going to be answering the question, do website pop-ups work or are they just bullshit? So, Adam, do you just want to quickly run through what a pop-up actually is? What do we mean by pop-up?
Yeah, so there's you've probably seen them around the internet as you kind of explore in the wild of the kind of wild west of the e-commerce stores. There's various ways they work. So they will either pop up as soon as you land on the page. Sometimes they will be delayed and pop up, say, 30 seconds after, or like halfway down the page once you've scrolled. Or they will, and this is my pet hate one, is where they pop up as you're trying to leave the site. So, or sometimes it's not even when you try and leave the site, it's when you go anywhere near the top of the bloody screen, and they just pop up and take over the entire screen, demanding your email address for a discount normally. Those are the three ways that they tend to appear. There probably are some other more nuanced ones, but it's generally any kind of form that pops up asking for your email address as you are browsing a website, whether you want it to or not.
Excellent. Yeah, I think they used to be used quite sparingly. There was a spate of them which were what they call screen takeovers, where it essentially took over your entire screen. They lasted, thankfully, about a week before they realised that people literally just closed the tab to get the hell out of there. I remember newspapers used to really fondly use those until they realised they were just a disaster. But essentially, there are many reasons why these are often negatively looked at. The first one I want to think about is purely just from a user experience point of view. Interrupting someone during a experience is, I would liken it to the used car salesman who comes over when you're browsing the cars in the forecourt and says, do you want any help with that? That feeling you get when you're just like, no, I'm not ready yet, go away. That is what I get every time a pop-up comes up. Regardless of the content, it's just that cringy feeling. So I think that's probably one thing to bear in mind. If you don't enjoy seeing them and you've got them on your website, then you are enforcing that on your prospective customers. So that's definitely one thing to consider. And the only other thing I was going to mention was that also Google, if you're running Google ads, if you have a pop-up on that page, it really negatively affects your quality score. Mm-hmm. And if you run a Facebook ads and you send it to a page with a pop-up on, it might not accept that URL because Google and Facebook have robots that go to the page and test for these pop-up scripts. And if they find them, they will often just not run ads to that page or penalise you massively by charging you a lot more. So if you are finding that you're spending a lot of money on Google ads, it's probably because you've got a pop-up.
Yeah, I think that's the danger with these, is that it's quite easy to use them and not really think about the use cases or kind of think about the implications they have on user experience, because people tend to be so focused on acquisition of email addresses, they tend to forget why they might want them. The way I tend to try and describe it, I think, is kind of empathetic pop-ups. If you are going to use them, is be very, very careful with them. Use them sparingly, but also use them in a position where you think someone might actually find it useful. So one of the kind of client sites that I work with, we do use them. But you also use them with kind of embedded forms as well, so that if someone dismisses it, it doesn't appear for the next, I think it's set to 60 days. But the form will then basically appear elsewhere on the site, embedded somewhere. And that's proved to be a pretty successful kind of combination where we do get a couple of % of people who sign up through the form. And if not, we get an even higher percentage that sign up through the embedded form. One of the tests we did on the pop-up form was around, or when it doesn't appear for the first 2 minutes, I don't think it's quite a long time, so that anyone who's coming onto the site and just browsing and just having a quick look won't see it at all. It's only the kind of engaged users who are perhaps doing a bit more research will then see it. So that's the first kind of caveat. And the second one is we saw a doubling in the conversion rate by changing the messaging on the form to be, again, more empathetic. So rather than being like, sign up for 10% off, It was sign up for a kind of like more information or kind of a how-to guide or whatever it was. It was far more. It was basically answering their query.
Yes. Yeah.
We've also carved that traffic up quite heavily so that we've got about 6 different forms appearing on 6 different types of pages so that people are only seeing pages or forms that are relevant to them at that point in the journey.
Yes. Yeah, I think site-wide is always a dangerous tactic
I
because
just hate it.
you just don't, and especially if you've got it set wrong and it pops up on every page. So every time you go to a new page, it pops up again. I mean, that's just tab closing territory right there.
There was a site I was looking at the other day where every page you clicked on, the pop-up came up again, and it was a potential client, so I kind of had to endure it. But it was like, that's the first thing that needs to go because I can't achieve what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing you have to think about with these is an exit intent pop-up helping someone achieve what they want to do? No, they want to leave the bloody site because they don't like what you're doing, whether for right or wrong. So let them do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think interesting what you were saying about the time and the delay on the pop-up. One thing that sprung to mind that might be an interesting one to try is if you were going to put them on a landing page, would be to work out what the reading time of your article is, and then set it to be basically the same as that. So if you've got a 3-minute read, set it to be 3 minutes. Because if someone's perusing that article and they get to the bottom of that article and they've spent the full length of time on it, and then you say, if you've got any further questions, we've got this free guide, or you can watch a video, or I mean, I've seen some that pop up with a kind of next steps pop up. So like you read the article maybe on like how to invest in something, and then you get to the bottom and it's like what happens when you set up an account. And that's actually the question you've got by the time you get to the end of the article. So in that sense, it might be quite nice because you're then answering that question. So there's definitely a time and a place for them. But I think in terms of the forms being used as just a discount, I mean, everybody who has heard me talk about discount will know that discounting is always the worst option for any promotion in every case. Because you're just giving away your profit margin. So you should never discount. Discounts are a terrible idea every single time. So throwing 10% at a random visitor who might not even have any intention shows that your product is 10% too expensive all of the time.
Exactly.
And if they stick it out, then they'll probably get 15, might get 20. Most people are trained. If you give them a discount in a pop-up, then I would then go to the site. I'd sign up to the email, go to the site, add it to the basket, because I know that you'll send me another email because I haven't checked out with a 15% code in. And 9 times out of 10, you can easily save 15% like that. People are smart. They know what they're doing. So if you are playing the discount game, then be prepared to play that game. But also, why do you need to discount? And why? What message does that give me? That's like me walking around your shop, picking up a few things, and as I run out, you run from behind the counter and say, excuse me, as I leave the shop. Look, don't go. I'll give you 10% off if you stay. That is what a 10% exit intent feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what impression does that give about your product? That's how little you value it, is you're willing to throw away 10%. I can't ever think of a good example for discounting. I've yet to have someone prove me wrong. If you do prove me wrong in the comments below, I'll happily have an at-length discussion with you. But I've yet to have an example where discounting works.
Well, I think it's just that you have to think about why the person isn't ready to buy. And is it price? I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's not price. Normally, if someone's not ready to buy, it's because they're either quite genuinely not ready to buy and they don't know what they want yet. Or it might be they're not too sure on your brand, or they might not be too sure on, as you said earlier, kind of what happens next. So the most successful pop-ups I've seen kind of used from my side are the ones that kind of manage that conversation and say, well, if you sign up, here's what's going to happen. Yeah. And then, you'll get a guide on how to invest, or as you say, it answers that next question. And you're not selling at that point, you're just helping the person out, and that's why they're kind of going to subscribe and be helpful. And they're then going to be kind of nurtured through your brand. If someone's read an article and says, oh, that was very useful, and they get a pop-up saying 10% off, it's like, well, that wasn't what I wanted to hear about.
No.
I don't really care about a 10% discount, because I'm not ready to buy, and price was never the issue. The issue is that I don't know what I want to buy yet.
Well, and what you've done there is you've moved that thought of, well, price was never the issue, but now I know that you're willing to move on the price. Now it's very much all I care about.
Well, yeah, because that's the only thing that's the only message you're telling me is
Yeah.
that you're willing to cheapen your value.
Yeah.
So I think are pop-ups bullshit? I'd personally kind of be a very hesitant. No, they can be executed exceptionally well, but only when done well, kind of empathetically, and when you take into consideration the whole basket of customer and user experience around
Yeah.
time on page, what page are they on, what search intent did they have to get to that page, what are they buying, and tailoring it around that. What imagery and messaging does the actual pop-up have,
Yeah.
and what happens after they sign up.
Yes.
Once you've got those, I think 6 or 7 points in place, then go ahead and use pop-ups.
Yeah. I think
If you're just going to slap it on and try and stop me from leaving the store because you don't sell what I want, then you
Good.
can do one.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, I would say a pop-up is bullshit when it includes a discount code or the word newsletter,
Yeah.
because neither of those
Yeah,
two things I
newsletter.
care about. If all you're giving me to care about is the price, then you've lost me already. If you want me to, I'm never going to sign up to your newsletter because I guarantee it's dull and boring. However, if you can give me something that really adds value, answers a question, and makes me want to know more, then you can have my email address. I have, despite my negative approach to pop-ups, I have put my email address into many of them and still read emails that I put my email into a pop-up because I thought this is odd. And, but they're genuinely adding value. They're entertaining, they're interesting. And then a pop-up is really useful because it's answering a question, it's adding value. So
Yeah.
if you don't have a pop-up, then I wouldn't rush to add one. If you're doing fine with a form in the footer or at the bottom of the page, and that's working for you, then don't be tempted to up that, 0.5%, 1% or whatever a pop-up's going to add. But also, if you are using one, maybe take a look at the content of it and ask yourself seriously, what impression is it giving out? Would you be impressed with it? Would it change your mind? But also, do you know what? I would love to hear if you have a pop-up strategy that is absolutely smashing it with a discount code. I would love to know what it is. I do genuinely get in touch because I think it'd be really interesting, and we'd happily do a podcast with you on how and why it works. But
Happy to be wrong.
oh yeah,
Definitely
happy to be wrong. In 18 years, I've yet to see one that is working. But anyway, so I think neatly that sort of brings us to a close on the pop-ups are bullshit question. Do let us know what your thoughts are on pop-ups. Are you an avid fan or do you hate them quite as much as we do? Do get in touch. You can either leave a comment here or you can go to our website, adamandsimon.com. And until next time, we will see you later.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Just drop the job.
Adam and Simon.